So Mark, it's Throwback Thursday. What do you have for us today?
I have a neat little tip that I learned a long time ago on the Potomac River about how to modify a Texas rigged Senko that I don't know a lot of people know about. So we're going to share that today on Mark Fisher Outdoors. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to MFO, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher.
I'm Megan Fuller.
Guys, before we get started on this little modification of a Senko, I do want to ask, if you haven't already, if you would please subscribe to the channel. Send us your comments. I'd love to hear how many of you have already heard about this modification, and if you've used it, where you've used it. Because quite honestly, one of the things that I've found, and Megan, I'd love to do a separate video about this. Okay. There are certain things that you do, certain baits, certain techniques that only seem to work in one or two lakes. They don't always work all around the country. And I'd love to do a video that talks specifically about, oh, if you use this kind of jig at this lake, it works great. If you use this color, I've found that it works great. This is something that I've found, I've seen it work a few different places, but not a lot. But on the Potomac River, it works great. So anyway, guys, I'd love for you to let us know whether or not you've heard of this technique and whether you use it on your home body of water. That would be awesome. The other thing that I do want to point out, guys, is one of the ways that you could help the channel, if you haven't done this already, not only subscribing and commenting, but if you could share our material with friends that you think might enjoy it as well, we'd appreciate that as well. And don't forget to use that MFO10 discount code at fishinggurus.com if you've got any baits that you want to purchase from them. All right, so let's get into this, okay?
Yep.
So fishing a standard Senko, no big deal. And a lot of guys, instead of fishing it wacky style, sometimes one of the options is to Texas rig this. Okay. When I Texas rig this, one of the things I will do is take this little willow leaf blade. This is a number 4. This one happens to be a copper, but I'll use silver as well. Okay. And I put a little swivel on it, and then I attach it. Also got a little hitchhiker attached to that. And so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take that willow leaf blade and I'm going to bite off the tail part
and eat it because it's salty.
Of my Senko. It is salty. So that leaves a flat end. And with that flat end, I'm now going to twist that hitchhiker into the back of the Senko.
You guys have such creative names for everything.
Hitchhikers.
Hitchhikers,
Swivels. Yeah, well. That's, if you're paying attention, this could help you pass the IQ test. That's coming up next week on the techniques and fishing styles part of the IQ test.
Well, I nailed the first one. So.
You did. So now I've got my willow leaf blade attached to my Senko. And when that Senko gets pulled Texas rig, what happens is when you pull that up and it sinks down, and remember, we talked about this when we were talking about like the Ozark rig, if I'm using a bullet weight, it's going to come nose down, but that willow leaf blade right there is going to flutter as this bait comes down, and it's going to flutter and spin as it comes down in the water. And that is going to trigger fish. Now, one of the things, I thought about this a lot when I was preparing for this video. Why does it work at the Potomac? Well, one of the things the Potomac has a lot of is grass. And so if I'm pulling this bait in and out of the grass. As this is fluttering down through the grass and that willow leaf is fluttering, that could attract bites from fish that are in the grass, and they see that little fluttering action and they scoop it up. But I'm telling you, this little trick right here, putting that little willow leaf, again, this is a number 4. You can, if you want to put a number 2, number 3 on it, you can do that. But this really does, you can see how that, just spinning that kind of gives it that little flutter. It really does. It's the big difference between getting bit at all and getting bit a lot on the Potomac. Now, I wouldn't necessarily, as long as we're here, I'd be definitely using a green pumpkin Senko rather than this. I used this so that it stood out a little bit more on the video, but
you had it your way. You'd use green pumpkin.
I'd use
everything.
green pumpkin pretty much for almost everything. That's a good point. You're absolutely right. So guys, try this tip the next time you're throwing a Texas rig Senko and see if it doesn't get you a few more bites. Go ahead and send us your comments. We'd appreciate it. And we'll see you tomorrow for another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.
Stay channeled.